Welcome to Illustrator Life. My name is Mark Wayne Adams, and welcome back. This is episode 2, and on episode 1 I gave you guys some homework, and one of the homework items was to go out and get a sketchbook if you didn't already have one. So I have my sketchbook here, and the other item that I asked you guys to do was to purchase a copy of the Graphic Artists Guild Handbook or get a copy from your local library. It does not need to be new. We're just going to talk about some of the tools that you can use inside this book to help you out in building a business plan today. So today we're going to be talking about building just a general business plan to project what your year is going to be like. This is something I do every year in January, and the reason I do it in January is because most people are setting goals and projecting things, but it's also a good time of year to focus on what you want to do in your business. Now, many of you are either new illustrators, or you are people who are thinking about becoming an illustrator, or you are established, but you are looking for new techniques that you can apply to what you're already doing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is I do a rough business plan. But the first thing I did in my sketchbook was I completed my homework, like I asked you guys to do. And that homework was to talk about, one of the things was to talk about some of the limitations you might have in this business. And for example, my kids have been home for the past 2 weeks from school, and they have been bringing friends over. They've been going to the movies. They've been dropping into my office. And so that's been kind of a limitation for me. And that's always a kind of a limitation in my business because I kind of try to put family first. And so what I do is I work around my family to get my job done. And that is one of my limitations, but it's also one of the things that's probably made me really flexible in this business. So I work in spurts on multiple different projects. So we'll talk about that in future episodes, but like you guys, I do have limitations as well, and every day is new and exciting, especially when people are home. Now, so I picked up my sketchbook also, and what I want to talk to you guys about is first understanding the value of who you are as an illustrator. And the first thing that most people do is when they're asked if they are an illustrator, most people go, well, I freelance in art. Especially if you have a day job, most of you are going to say that you freelance because it's not your main income. Now, the word free has a stigmatism to it, and the first time you say that word, most people think that the first illustrations for free, and that what you're doing is you're doing it for free, but you're really happy when people pay you. If you're working for sites like Fiverr.com or Craigslist, and you're just trying to get projects because you are freelancing, that's okay. You are doing these little side projects to make extra money, so use freelancing for that. What I want you guys to do with our business plan is to consider yourself a professional. So when I tell people I am a professional illustrator, they go, oh wow, so how much do you charge? Automatically, people know that if you're a professional, you are charging something, and you are probably not going to be cheap. And it's kind of like when you go into a car dealer and it says $199 down, take it home today. Well, there are a lot of people who look at it and go, oh, well, I've got $199. They don't think about the end price of the car, which that's where people get you. So if you go into a car dealership, for example, you go into a Maserati dealership, they're not even talking about money. If you go into a dealership like that, they are talking about, so which one do you want? Because they know that you are coming in there to purchase a car, not because you're worried about the money of it. So freelance versus professional. So what we're working on today is we're working on a professional illustrator's business plan for the upcoming year. So what I did was I went straight to my sketchbook and I started to write my plan down. And the reason I write my plan down inside my sketchbook is because this is going to be your guide and your resource. You will have a library of these. So in my library, I can go back for the past 10 years and look at different business plans that I've created for myself each year. And why is that good? It's good because if you go back to your sketchbook from the previous year, you can see what your goals were, and you don't have to start all over. You can say, well, that worked and this worked, and I'll add that to this upcoming year's plan. Also work with your accountant as well. I'm married to mine, so she's wonderful to work with, and most people don't have that benefit. So if you use QuickBooks for your accounting software, or if you use Excel, or if you have a CPA that you work with, have them run some reports for you so you kind of know what you're projecting for the upcoming year. Now, I kind of hinted to some of my goals in the last episode. So what I've done is I've listed 8 different projects that I want to complete in this upcoming year. Some of these are started, some of these are near completion already, but the reason I've listed these is so I have a basic idea of the income that will be coming from each one of these projects. So the first book I have is Little Miss Grubby Toes Plays with Fire. It's written by Eddie Price. This book is going to press. The second book is Mighty Madeline. This is a new author. Her name is Julie Mason Watling. And this is a new project that is at the watercolor stage. I have Kilpatrick McFrown is the third book on my list. It's written by author Sarah Sproles, and she is a new client this year. And her book is at the final edit stage. And the fourth book I have on here is called Flopanopolis. It's written by author John Hope. He is one of my series authors. His first book is Frozen Floppies. This book is in the color illustration stage. The fifth book in the series, the fifth book on my list is Eddie That Spaghetti, is one of my series authors. Her name is Miss Krista Carpenter, and this is the third book in her series. The sixth book on my list is Violet the Hugging Octopus. It's written by Miss Sherry Duquette, and she is a new author, and this book is at the color illustration stage. Seventh book and eighth book are both question marks. Now, one, I kind of know what the title is going to be. It's Little Miss Grubby Toes Goes Swimming. Well, we're still talking about the title, so it may be Little Miss Grubby Toes Falls in a Pool. But this is author Eddie Price, and he came to me and wanted me to illustrate 2 new books this year, and the second one I don't even know the title of. We haven't signed contracts on those, so these would be really good examples for you guys how to work on your contracts, and we'll talk about that in future episodes. So here I have 8 books, and on average what I do is I charge a deposit up front based on the number of illustrations for each book. So I'm going to round these figures off so it's easy for you guys to comprehend, but we will have examples on the homework sheet so that you can use this to create your own. But on average, I usually charge about $8,000 per contract as a deposit, and that works out to around $250 a page for an average 32-page children's book. And I usually include the cover illustration because sometimes it's one of the illustrations from inside the book, and we just repurpose it for the cover. So that's why I kind of include the cover illustration. Now, if it's a new client, I may not do that, but usually I try to keep the budget similar so that all of my clients are getting similar pricing. And I usually charge a royalty on top of the deposit. And that ranges from 10 to 20 and whatever we negotiate. But we're not going to talk about the royalties because that is income that comes later on and it's not expected from these projects. So that works out to around 8 books, $8,000, $64,000 a year. And that is where I base my annual income on because I sat down with my wife and we decided that if I only do illustrations, this is the amount I would need to make because I usually work from home or a local Panera. I'm not spending a lot of money to make the artwork because the investment in creating the artwork is usually minimal. I purchased a $36 watercolor set and I've illustrated 16 different books with that watercolor set. Usually use 36 sheets of watercolor paper. I buy it usually half off at the local art supply store whenever they go on sale. So you can see that the investment is usually my time. And so most of these books, I usually will have a gross income of around $64,000, and the net income is usually pretty close to that because of the cost associated with it. And gross and net is really important in this business because your materials do cost things, your time costs things, and you need to get paid for your time. So that's the first thing I put on here. Now, it's also really important that you diversify your income streams as an illustrator, because not every day will an illustration project fall in your lap. I know this. I've been doing this for 10 years. Not every day do you have a client knocking on your door. Now, the longer you're in this business, the easier it gets. But in the beginning, you are sometimes have dry moments, and sometimes you have high moments, which are really great. Now, so these projects, I usually base them on trying to complete one a month. And the reason I say one a month, it could be any one of these projects based on the approvals from the editors, the publisher, and the author. Not every author responds as quickly, so sometimes projects take multiple months, but if I were to sit down and finish the project, it could have only taken me a month. Now, the second thing on my list, and I hinted toward this, was I wanted to complete 2 novels. And the 2 novels I'd like to complete are Good Day, part of my Family Tree novels series, and the second one is called Mates. And that one is, I've been writing that one along with the other novels, so it'd be very easy for me to do that. Good Day is at the editors, and the publisher is about to approve that project. So that one would be really easy to cross off the list, but I haven't because it is not in production. And Mates is not in production. So these 2 books, I make 0 income until they have made sales through retail outlets. It's really important that you consider things like this that you have on your list, because if it doesn't make money until it's in print, then every hour you spend on it is $0. Another thing I put on here that I didn't hint toward, but it's really been a goal for the past year, has been to complete the illustrated version of Outback, one of my Family Tree novels. I would like to complete an illustrated version of that book that would release also this year. I also get paid $0 until it is finished. There are over 100 illustrations in that book, and it's one of those things I just do for fun. Now, the reason I listed these things is you need to do some of these fun things for yourself. Now, if I complete 8 books in 8 months, I have 4 months of free time. So this is what I'm doing in my, quote, free time, is I'm creating new products. Now, the next thing on my list is diversifying my income. One, I have these books, these novels, that once they start to sell, that's another income stream. But they haven't yet, so it's still 0. So right now we are at $64,000 for my goal this year, my business goal. The second thing that I do that a lot of people as illustrators do not do is I do public speaking, and I travel around to elementary schools. Now, some years I do 45 to 90 school visits. Some years I started out and I would only do 10 school visits, but on average, over the past 10 years, I make about $1,000 a day when I do a school visit. So I've listed here that I would like to complete 20 school visits. That would be a gross income of $20,000. Now, I have to take out all of my expenses associated with the book travel. So for example, fuel, hotel stays, food, all of that has to be taken out. Also, even the illustration pad that I use during my presentation, markers, and any books that I give away. So those are expenses associated. And then I have to consider the net income I would make. But we're keeping this gross. So 64,000 plus 20 is 84,000. See, simple math. So that is what I'm projecting. Now, I also have another income stream that I've created over the years, and that is traveling to book festivals and book events. So for example, this year I plan on attending the Amelia Island Book Festival Authors in Schools program. That's here in North Florida. And then I will also attend the Soki Book Festival in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They have a writers conference. They also have a children's day, and they also have a day for the public. Now, I listed these book events because on average, I make around $3,000 per event. Now, this is on average, and I've listed here that I plan on doing 8 book events this year. And last year, I did a 10-week book tour. And in that 10-week book tour, I did school visits, book events, and I grouped them all together because the fall is one of the best times to sell books. If you have authors that are watching this, it's one of the best times to sell books. And as an illustrator, I try to help my authors out by pushing book sales in the fall. So if I were to do 8 events at $3,000, that's another $24,000. So let's add up what I've projected for this upcoming year. So 64, 20, 24 comes out to $108,000. And most people are like, wow, you're gonna make $108,000. If I tell my friends that, they're like, why are you not driving a Mercedes? I said, that's a gross income. If you are running a business, you will have expenses associated this year with your business. That includes taxes, that includes travel costs, food, materials. You have to consider this in projecting your business goal for the upcoming year. Now, the thing that I didn't include, and I kind of hinted to it in my first list, was I get paid royalties. Now, your first year as an illustrator, you probably will not get paid very many royalties based on when your contracts and your books release. But the second year, this is really great because that's when you will get paid royalties. Now, out of the 60 books that I've illustrated, only 32 of those books are still in print. Yes, I realized about 5 years in this business that not every book will survive, and I will have to continue to illustrate books if I want to grow my royalties. Now, on average, if an author were to sell 250 books a year, that would be wonderful. And the reason I would like them to at least sell 250 books is because I would like to receive a royalty check. So what I've done is a rough estimate. If one author sold 250 books at a net sale of $10, then I would make about $250 each year from that author. Most authors in this business, and it ranges from independent authors all the way to traditional, and you will be surprised the number of traditional authors who sell fewer than the indies. But if each author were to sell 250 books, out of the 30 authors, I should make a $7,500 bonus each year. So if we were to add that $7,500 bonus with the gross figure, that's around $115,500 I should project for the upcoming year. Now, this is my business plan, and it's really important to think about things like this as an illustrator for the upcoming year. Now, the great thing about this is if you put it in your sketchbook, next year when you sit down in January to get started, all this will be laid out for you, and you can look and see what works for you and what doesn't. Now, many of you may not be public speakers, and that's fine. We will have episodes on, if you decide to become a public speaker, on how to make that happen. You may not attend book events because you may not be into big crowds or collecting money or cash handling. So that may not be an income stream, but you may decide you want to be a cover designer. So that could be one of your income streams. You may decide to do 10 covers at $500. That's a great income stream that you probably did not consider. Also, instead of doing book events, you may do book layouts. So when you're not illustrating a book, you will do a book layout. You may charge anywhere from $500 to $1,500, depending on what type of book and the genre. So those are different ways to figure income streams. I would not put a lot of investment in your business plan here on doing freelance artwork for different websites, because that is very random and sporadic, and it's very hard to determine. So you really need to sit down and say, as a professional, these are the 3 different areas where I want to diversify my income and stick with these 3. Because if you can manage those 3, then maybe you can add on a few other things later on. Because there are many other things I do that is not in this business plan. Now, I use my sketchbook. I use the Graphic Artists Guild Handbook, and these are ways I build my business plan each year. And it's really important to do this so that you don't just wake up each day and wonder what's coming next. Now with this plan, you can kind of project the number of projects you can manage based on your day job. So if you are working a 40 to 60 hour a week job and you only have 2 hours a night, 5 nights a week, you have 10 hours a week, you can look at this plan and say, there is no way, and with the time I've been given, that I can complete 8 books. But 2 or 4 might be reasonable for you. So if you were to complete 4 books at $8,000, you are looking at anywhere from around, let me see, $24,000 to $30,000 extra a year you'd make. Now, if you look at the amount you get paid for overtime at your day job, if you were making $25 an hour, if you were to illustrate a children's book, a page a night at $250, you are making $125 an hour as opposed to $25 an hour. So you need to look at your business plan, project the number of projects you can do, and where does it make sense to do your overtime? Is it more reasonable to stay up 2 hours late and do overtime as an illustrator, or is it more effective for you to stay at work and make $50 extra when you can be making $250? Now, I'm going to give you some homework. I know, but I'm doing homework too while you guys are doing it, so don't feel like you're the only person in the world having to do homework. Now, the homework I would like for you guys to do is, number 1, get in your sketchbook, write down your business plan. Make it as real as possible. Think about the number of hours associated with it. Get the Graphic Artist Guild handbook. Look at what people are getting paid. But you do not have to price yourself that way. We're on our next episode, we're going to kind of talk about pricing so that you can understand how to look at what's reasonable and what you've projected. And the reason I want you to project is because, man, it's so much fun to dream, because the reality of it is what really drives home the fact that this is a business. Now, so the first thing is to write down your business plan in your sketchbook for the next episode. Second thing, do not quit your day job, okay? Because 2 incomes are better than 1. And a good friend of mine, he was an illustrator at the time. His name is Stephen Riley. He said, hey, dude, whatever you do, don't quit your day job. He said, because 2 incomes are better than 1. And most of you are like, oh, well, I have a spouse or a significant other, and we have 2 incomes. No, what's great is one of the things that most people don't realize is if you have a spouse or a family member and you're trying to convince them that this is a business, if you have a spouse with 1 income and you with 1 income and you add another income, automatically they're going to really enjoy the second income, especially when the second income equals the day job, because that's going to give you more freedom, it's going to give them more freedom, and it's going to make it a reality. So number 1, write down a business plan. Number 2, don't quit your day job. 2 incomes are better than 1, and the day you quit your day job will be the day your fun job becomes your full-time career. And the third thing I would like for you guys to do is to write down 3 types of clients you want to work with. It's really important to do this because we're going to be talking about how to price books, and it's really important for you to kind of know who pays for what and what type of client you really want to work with. I work with a lot of teachers and educators because I do public speaking in schools. You may love nonfiction or history, and that might be the type of illustrator you want to be. So you're going to hang out with different type of people than I might hang out with. So that's something we need to consider. So number 1, business plan. Number 2, don't quit your day job, which should not be hard. And number 3 is to write down 3 different types of clients you might want to work with. Now, I want to thank you guys. The homework is going to be on my website, www.markwayneadams.com or www.mwa.company. There will also be links there to the resource tools, and what I will do is I will also put up a sample business plan for you guys that you can drop in some of the figures. So it's kind of a cheat sheet, but you're not going to be allowed to print it because you're supposed to write it in your sketchbook. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for tuning in again. I will see you for episode 3, and be prepared to learn more about how to price projects. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to get the clients yet, so you got to tune in to know how to price your projects before you go to your client. Thanks a lot. Talk with you soon.